Imagine a place where the air you breathe is a cocktail of sulfuric acid and volcanic gases. A place where the ground beneath your boots isn't soil, but a brittle crust of salt over boiling magma. Now, imagine waking up there every morning. Imagine calling it home. We like to believe that humans have conquered the Earth, that our technology and our will have made every corner of this planet ours for the taking. We are wrong. There are coordinates on your map where the environment is not just hostile, it is actively trying to erase you. There are villages where the silence is so heavy, it feels like a physical weight, and where the locals, those few who remain, live in a state of constant, quiet terror. They stay because they have nowhere else to go, or because the land has claimed them in ways they cannot explain. From the radioactive ghosts of the east to the frozen hellscapes of the north, we are about to journey into the shadows of the map. These are the places where nature has revoked our invitation. These are the top 10 impossible villages even locals are afraid to live in. Before we descend into the first location on our list, I want to ask you something. Look at the clock right now. Where are you in the world, and what time is it? Write it down in the comments. We want to see how far these stories travel, and how many of you are watching from the safety of a warm home while we explore the most dangerous doorsteps on the planet. Number 10. Monowai, Nebraska, in the United States. Imagine walking down a street where every window is a dark, empty eye. The wind whistles through the cracks in abandoned grain elevators, kicking up dust that hasn't been disturbed in decades. There is a tavern here, and a library with 5,000 books, but there is only one set of footsteps. This is the home of Elsie Eiler. She is 89 years old, and she is the only person left. Monowai isn't impossible because of heat or poison. It is impossible because of the crushing weight of solitude. In the 1930s, this was a bustling railway town with a population of 150. Today, Elsie is the mayor, the clerk, the treasurer, and the only taxpayer. She grants herself a liquor license every year to keep the tavern open for the occasional trucker passing through. But when the sun goes down and the tavern lights flicker out, the silence of the Great Plains swallows the town whole. Locals from neighboring counties speak of Monowai with a sense of dread, not because of ghosts, but because of the realization of what happens when a community simply vanishes. It is a living tombstone, a place where one woman stands guard over a memory that the rest of the world has already buried. The tavern remains open, but the town has already died. Number 9. The Atacama Desert, Chile. This is the driest place on Earth. In some parts of this plateau, rain has not fallen for 400 years. Not a drop, not a mist. The ground is so arid, so devoid of moisture, that NASA uses it to test Mars rovers. It is a landscape of cracked earth and salt flats that stretch until the horizon bleeds into the sky. There are small settlements here, clusters of adobe houses where the inhabitants live in a state of permanent thirst. They survive using fog nets, giant mesh screens that catch the microscopic droplets of moisture from the coastal mists. But even with this technology, the Atacama is a place that rejects life. The soil is hyperacidic and sterile. There are no insects. There are no birds. There is only the sun, a relentless hammer that beats down on the earth until it screams. The locals tell stories of the Achachis, ancient spirits that haunt the salt caves. But the real terror is the dehydration that can claim a person in hours. It is a place where the mummies of the Chinchorro people, buried thousands of years ago, remain perfectly preserved because the air is too dry for decay. Here, time doesn't pass, it simply evaporates. Number 8. The mining zones of Iquique and the surrounding Andean heights in Peru. This is a world painted in shades of gray and toxic yellow. In villages like La Arroya, the air doesn't smell like oxygen. It smells like metal. It smells like sulfur and lead. For decades, massive smelting operations have pumped a cocktail of heavy metals into the atmosphere, coating every roof, every street, and every lung in a fine, poisonous dust. Statistics here are terrifying. In some of these mining villages, 99% of the children have lead levels in their blood that exceed safety limits by 3 or 4 times. The ground is so contaminated that nothing can grow, and the water in the rivers runs a sickly, metallic orange. The locals live in a state of forced necessity, trapped by the very industry that is killing them. They are afraid of the air they breathe, afraid of the water they give to their children, yet they cannot leave because the mines are the only source of survival. It is a slow-motion catastrophe, a place where the environment has been turned into a weapon of mass destruction by human greed. The mountains are rich with gold, but the people are dying in the shadows of the wealth they extract. Number 7. Pripyat, Ukraine. We all know the name Chernobyl, but to stand in the center of Pripyat is to understand the true meaning of an impossible city. It has been 40 years since the reactor 4 exploded, and yet the silence here is louder than any explosion. You walk through the overgrown courtyards of kindergartens, where plastic dolls lie face down in the dirt, their eyes melted by the heat of a fire that never went out. The iconic Ferris wheel stands like a rusted skeleton against the sky, a monument to a carnival that never happened. But the danger here isn't what you see, it's what you don't. Radiation is an invisible predator. It patrols these streets in hot spots, patches of moss or piles of debris where the Geiger counter screams a warning that your senses cannot perceive. The few Samosli, or self-settlers who return to the exclusion zone, are mostly elderly people who preferred to die in their homes than live as refugees. They eat the radioactive crops and drink the contaminated water, living in a twilight zone between life and a slow, glowing death. They are the guardians of a tomb, living in a city that was designed for 50,000 people, but now belongs only to the wolves and the isotopes. Number 6. Dallol, Ethiopia. Located in the Danakil Depression, this is widely considered the most cruel place on the face of the earth. It is a volcanic wasteland that sits 400 feet below sea level. The landscape looks like another planet. Vibrant neon greens, acidic yellows, and blood reds created by sulfur, salt, and iron deposits. But don't let the colors fool you. This is a gateway to hell. The average daily temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it rarely drops. The air is thick with toxic vapors rising from the hydrothermal geysers. If you stand in the wrong place, the fumes can knock you unconscious in seconds. There are no permanent residents in the heart of Dallol, but the Afar people travel here to mine salt, which they call white gold. They work in conditions that would kill a normal human being, hacking at the salt crust under a sun that feels like a physical blow. They speak of the land as if it were a living, breathing demon that demands a sacrifice of sweat and blood every single day. It is a place where the water is acidic enough to dissolve your skin, and the air is a poison. We are halfway through our list, and if you thought these places were extreme, what comes next will redefine your understanding of human endurance. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We explore the forgotten corners of the world every week, and you won't want to miss our next descent into the unknown. Tell us in the comments, which of these places would you last the longest in? Number 5. Leh in the Ladakh region of India. This is the land of high passes, a village perched at 11,500 feet above sea level. At this altitude, the atmosphere is so thin that there is 30% less oxygen than at sea level. For a visitor, every step feels like running a marathon. Your heart hammers against your ribs, your head throbs with a relentless pressure, and your lungs burn as they struggle to find air that isn't there. But for the locals, the danger is more insidious. High-altitude pulmonary edema and cerebral edema are constant threats. The body slowly begins to shut down when it cannot get enough oxygen to fuel its basic functions. The sun here is a different kind of monster. Without the thick atmosphere to filter it, the ultraviolet radiation is fierce, burning skin and eyes in minutes. The winters are brutal, isolating the villages from the rest of the world for 6 months at a time. The locals live in a state of forced meditation, moving slowly, speaking softly, conserving every breath as if it were their last. They are people of the clouds, living in a beautiful, thin-aired prison, where the very act of breathing is a labor of love and pain. Number 4. Verkhoyansk, Siberia, Russia. For over a century, this tiny settlement has battled with Oymyakon for the title of the Pole of Cold in the Northern Hemisphere. In the winter, temperatures here regularly plummet to -60 or -70 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a cold that defies description. It is a cold that shatters steel. If you were to throw a cup of boiling water into the air, it would turn into ice crystals before it hit the ground. The ground itself is permafrost, frozen solid to a depth of several hundred feet. You cannot bury the dead here without lighting massive bonfires for days to thaw the earth, just enough to dig a few inches. The locals live in houses built on stilts, so the heat from the building doesn't melt the permafrost and cause the structure to sink into a swamp of mud. They leave their car engines running 24 hours a day, because if the engine stops, the fluids will freeze into a solid block and the vehicle will never start again until spring. There is a phenomenon here called the whisper of stars, the sound of your own breath freezing into crystals and falling to the ground. It is a poetic name for a terrifying reality. A place where the air is so cold it can shatter your teeth if you breathe too deeply through your mouth. Number 3. Socotra, Yemen. Often called the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, Socotra is an island that looks like it was designed by a science fiction writer. It is home to the dragon's blood tree, which bleeds a thick crimson sap and looks like an umbrella turned inside out. But the beauty of Socotra hides a terrifying isolation. For months out of the year, the island is battered by monsoon winds so powerful that no ships can dock and no planes can land. The people who live in the mountain villages are cut off from the world, left to survive on what they have stored. The island is home to unique and often lethal fauna, including giant centipedes and spiders found nowhere else on Earth. But the real fear for the locals is the isolation itself. If a medical emergency happens during the monsoon season, there is no escape. You are at the mercy of the island. The locals have a deep spiritual connection to the land, believing that the trees and the stones are inhabited by ancient spirits. They live in a world that has remained unchanged for millions of years, a pocket of prehistory where the modern world is just a distant flickering ghost. It is a place of alien beauty and absolute terrifying solitude. Number 2. Fukushima, Japan. Following the triple disaster of 2011, the earthquake, the tsunami, and the nuclear meltdown, entire districts were declared difficult to return zones. Today, villages like Nami and Iitate are modern-day Pripyats. You can walk down a street and see laundry still hanging on lines, frozen in time for over a decade. You see supermarkets where the shelves are still stocked with products that expired in March 2011. But unlike Pripyat, the Japanese government is actively trying to decontaminate these areas. They strip the topsoil, wash the buildings, and invite the residents back. But the locals are afraid. They see the black bags of radioactive soil piled up in the fields like thousands of plastic tombs. They know that while the street might be clean, the forest behind their house is still hot. They are afraid of the invisible fire that might be lurking in the dust of their childhood bedrooms. Many of those who have returned are the elderly, those who feel they have nothing left to lose. The young have moved on, leaving behind a landscape of empty schools and silent playgrounds. It is a place where the trauma of the past is written in the very atoms of the soil, a village that is being rebuilt on a foundation of fear and uncertainty. Before we reach the most impossible village on our list, take a second to check that subscribe button. We read every single comment and we want to know, which of these places has shocked you the most so far? Is it the toxic mines of Peru or the silent streets of Nebraska? Let us know. Your engagement is what keeps this channel exploring. Number 1. Oymyakon, Siberia, Russia. This is the ultimate test of human existence. It is the coldest permanently inhabited place on the planet. In 1924, a temperature of minus 71.2 degrees Celsius was recorded here. That is minus 96 degrees Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, the world changes. Ink freezes in pens. Glasses freeze to people's faces. Batteries lose their charge in minutes. The children of Oymyakon only stay home from school if the temperature drops below minus 55 degrees. Think about that. Their snow day is a temperature that would cause a national emergency in almost any other country. The diet here consists almost entirely of meat, raw frozen fish, reindeer meat, and horse liver, because no vegetables can grow in the frozen earth. The locals face a constant struggle against the elements. If a water pipe bursts, it is a catastrophe. If the power goes out, the village could freeze to death in hours. Why do they stay? Some say it is because they are the descendants of the hardy Yakut people who have lived here for centuries. Others say it is because the cost of leaving is too high. But there is a deeper truth. Oymyakon is a place that demands a level of resilience that borders on the superhuman. It is a village where every single day is a victory over the void. It is the most impossible home on Earth, a place where the breath of life is constantly being turned into ice, and yet the heart of the community continues to beat. We have traveled from the driest deserts to the most radioactive ruins, from the highest peaks to the deepest freezes. What we have found is that the human spirit is incredibly stubborn. We cling to the edges of the world, even when the world tries to push us off. But these 10 places serve as a reminder. We are guests on this planet, not its masters. There are places where the rules of nature are absolute, and where our survival is a privilege, not a right. Which of these villages terrified you the most? Would you ever have the courage to visit Elsian Monowi? Or stand among the dragon's blood trees of Socotra? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journey into the forgotten and the forbidden. Until next time, keep your eyes on the map, but be careful which shadows you choose to follow. This was L'Atlas Oublié.